This guy turned black in a world where colors are everything. In this world, people's rank is based on their color, where those with vibrant colors are seen as heroes and those without color seen as scum. But due to his lack of color, he is turned away and even ostracized for not knowing his place. So when he was suddenly hit by an Avada Kedavra, he woke up while being held over a toxic waste of all inks mixed together by Zoro's evil cousin, who planned to sell Nero on the black market as an intelligent creature, is a very rare existence. At that moment, Kay had become what they feared the most, a black man. But this is just the beginning. The story began with the steady sound of an axe striking against a wall. Each blow grew heavier until a strange blue liquid began to drip from the cracks. A young boy, excited by his discovery, collected the substance into a small bottle. It was ink, a rare find. He smiled and thanked a small, dark creature named Nero for guiding him to it. As he stepped out from the dim hole where he had been searching, he wondered if bringing this back would finally make the pioneering corps accept him. Emerging into the light, he gazed at the city ahead, its center glowing with brilliant, shifting colors. In the bustling city, crowds had gathered to watch a group known as the colorists. Their bodies shimmered with vibrant hues, drawing admiration from everyone around. People whispered about how the colorists had defeated another giant creature that day. To them, these individuals were heroes, protectors of the shining city. As long as they existed, the city would remain safe. Far from that brightness, in the shadow district on the edge of the city, another group stood in line before a building. It was the testing site for the C-rank Pioneering Corps entrance exam, open to anyone possessing color. They dreamed of exploring the Blacklands and earning glory, but not everyone was welcome. The young boy, still clutching his bottle of ink, was thrown out before the exam even began. The guards told him to leave, reminding him once again that this was not a place for people like him. Frustrated, he shouted back, demanding to know why. He showed them the ink he had brought, insisting it proved his worth. A man with red hair stepped forward and asked if he really needed it spelled out for him. He was colorless. The word struck the boy like a blow. The man continued saying that everyone was born with their roles already decided, but sometimes fools who didn't know their place appeared out of nowhere. Flames rose from his hand as he warned the boy to listen carefully. People like him didn't belong there. The fire roared toward the boy, who flinched in fear. When he opened his eyes, the attack had missed him deliberately. The red-haired man smirked and told him that only the chosen could become pioneers. His companions demonstrated their powers, each ability more dazzling than the last. He explained that beyond the city lay the Blacklands, a realm swallowed by darkness, where monstrous creatures roamed unseen. Only those with strength and color could survive there. Pioneers risked their lives exploring the unknown, searching for resources and treasures to secure humanity's future. They were the true heroes of their age. The man told the boy that for someone colorless, becoming a pioneer was impossible. He ordered him to return to colorless work, stop showing up at their gates, and get lost. As the door slammed shut, he warned that if the boy annoyed him again, he wouldn't miss next time. He paused without saying a word. From his pocket, the small black creature emerged, trying to encourage him, but he told it quietly that it was fine. There were still many other places they could try. He was already used to rejection. Smiling faintly, he promised that one day he would become the greatest colorist ever. He pushed Nero back into his pocket. Though the creature resisted, the boy whispered for it to stay hidden. Someone might see them. Turning away, he said they should look elsewhere, somewhere that might actually take them in. From a nearby window, a strange man watched their exchange, a faint grin crossing his face. After hours of searching and being turned away from one place after another, the boy reviewed his list, crossing out another name. He sighed heavily. Another failed attempt. It couldn't be helped. Eventually, he arrived at Mari's workshop. She was another colorless like him. Seeing him at the door, she greeted him warmly, saying, "Welcome back. Judging by your face, it didn't go well again, did it?" He nodded silently. She smiled with gentle confidence and told him that people simply didn't recognize talent when they saw it. In her eyes, he was probably stronger than most pioneers already. He shrugged, saying that it didn't matter how skilled he was. No one would ever accept a colorless into the corps. Mari reminded him that despite everything, he still managed to return safely from the Blacklands every time his abilities were already proven. He corrected her softly, saying it was only possible because Nero always helped him. Then, changing the subject, he asked if she could buy the ink he'd found. She agreed happily, saying she'd pay him well for it. As she poured the ink into her energy device, she sighed of relief. Lately, it had been hard to get supplies. The boy commented that it was because the city kept pushing to increase the number of pioneers. Mari nodded, saying their entire livelihood depended on ink. She looked at him with concern. He was willing to work hard at anything, yet no core would take him in. Calling him K, she asked if he had thought about what she told him before. He admitted he hadn't. The place she mentioned seemed out of reach. Before he could finish, Mari placed a paper on the table in front of him. She said firmly, "You have to try everything. You never know how things might turn out. This could be your chance." He picked up the sheet and froze when he saw the name. Dawn Pioneering Corps, an S-rank unit. He had always assumed he'd fail if he tried there. Could his skills really be recognized at such a level? Mari told him it was a great opportunity, one based on ability. If he truly wanted acknowledgement, this might be the moment. She smiled and reminded him that he had wanted to be a colorist since they were kids. She'd always support him no matter what. Kay smiled back, saying he couldn't afford to hesitate any longer. He picked up the application sheet for the Dawn Corps and thanked her before leaving. Mary called after him, telling him to take care. Walking alone through the narrow alley, Kay studied the sheet again. Time was short. He needed to prepare quickly. Suddenly, Nero tensed in his pocket, alert to danger. He frowned, asking what was wrong. Before he could react, someone approached from behind. It was the same group of strange men who had been watching from the window. A sudden blast struck him in the back. The impact sent him crashing forward as a sharp pain tore through his body. He screamed before everything went black. Kay crashed to the ground, his body trembling from the force of the blast. One of the attackers laughed, saying he was lucky to have dodged it. Another, a man with green hair, replied coldly that it didn't matter. The boy would be dead soon anyway. No one cared if a colorless died. From his pocket, Nero darted out, crying as it tried to reach him. Kay's vision blurred, consciousness slipping away. With what little strength remained, he signaled the small creature to run. When Kay next opened his eyes, everything was dark. The air was thick with a stench of decay. He realized he was lying in a deep pit, a place reeking of danger. Above him, the green-haired man sneered, saying it was unfortunate for him to still be alive. He explained that this was an ink waste pit, a place where all kinds of inks mixed together, creating a deadly poison that dissolved anything human. He said it was perfect for disposing of unwanted bodies. Kay's voice cracked as he asked who they were and why they had attacked him. The man grinned, amused. He said they were just as surprised as he was. They hadn't expected to find such a treasure in the Shadow District. Turning his gaze to a nearby cage, he revealed Nero trapped inside. A creature intelligent enough to follow human commands, he said, was a true rarity, something that could fetch a huge price on the black market. Kay's heart sank. Rage burned through the weakness in his limbs as he shouted for Nero. He struggled to stand, calling the green-haired man a bastard and demanding he let go of his friend. The man mocked him, saying, "A colorless trying to be scary. That's pathetic," he said, grabbing Kay by the collar. "It's too good for someone like you to have a creature like this." Kay realized too late how careless he'd been. He had endured years of insults and discrimination, but losing Nero, his only family, was unbearable. His face twisted with anger. He growled, "Don't mess with me." The man suddenly froze. Darkness began to seep from Kay's hand, swirling like ink coming alive. A sharp pain shot through the green-haired man's body as he felt something pulling, as though the very life was being drained from him. Panicking, he threw Kay into the pit. "Disgusting," he muttered, backing away. Kay plummeted into the thick black liquid. Above, the two men laughed, saying it was over, all cleaned up. Now they said they were rich. Nero's cries echoed from the cage above, faint but desperate. Kay's body refused to move. He could still hear Nero's cries growing louder, echoing through the darkness. darkness. He wondered, was this really the end? After everything, would it end like this? No, he still had that promise. Suddenly, a voice echoed in his mind, cold and distant, inquiring, "Why are you just standing there? Why aren't you doing anything?" He couldn't respond, only gasp weakly. The voice grew louder. "Will you just let it end like this? Save Nero. Take it all in. Don't hesitate. Accept it. Your true color. Now take it back. Your true color." Black energy surged around him, spiraling upward. He felt it flooding through his veins, merging with every part of him. He opened his eyes to find himself in a vast white void. A faint silhouette, a shadow of light stood before him. Looking at his hands, he whispered, "What is this? What's happening?" He realized he was inside the ink itself, surrounded by endless stillness. His memories blurred, he thought. "Who am I?" But then Nero's cry pierced through the silence, louder and louder, calling out to him. Lifting his head, he could see them again, the two men and Nero still trapped and crying. His heart burned with determination. He had to save Nero. He thrust his arm upward. The pit erupted. Every drop of ink exploded outward, flooding the area. The men screamed in shock as the black liquid vanished in an instant. From the pit, something massive began to rise, a form shrouded in pure darkness. The green-haired man stepped back, his face pale. He whispered, "No, no way. This can't be." A deep black hand rose from the pit and reached for them. Meanwhile, the chemical factory had been completely destroyed, and many people were gathered around, and many officers were stopping them from going further. And among them, an old man shouting says that he clearly saw what exactly happened here, and one officer is noting down his words. He says, "A huge black hand suddenly appeared and it destroyed this whole place." And the officer listening to him says, "Yes, yes." Then the old man says, "I'm sure it did. It ripped that whole area to shreds, I tell you." The old man added, "Are you even listening to me properly?" On the other side, a green-haired man is being taken away on a stretcher whose entire color had been sucked out from inside him, because of which he now looked like an old man. And some pioneers look at that pioneer. The red-haired pioneer says, "Fortunately, it seems these two are the only victims." The female pioneer says, "Yes, they're Beer Pioneer Corps members. Their reputation wasn't very good." She adds, "I just don't get it. What in the world happened for them to lose all their color?" The red-haired pioneer says, "Well, that's important too, but let's set it aside for now. We came all the way here because of the large creature that appeared in the city." Just then, an officer calls the pioneers and calls them, "Sir," and the two pioneers turn toward him. The officer politely says, "It's an honor to meet you. I'm the one in charge of the site. What brings such busy people to Shadow District?" Red Hair says, "No need to be so tense. We just received a request to investigate the creature. I'd like to see the scene myself. Can you show us around, officer?" The officer says, "Ah, yes, right this way." And the two pioneers enter the chemical factory and start investigating. Then Red Hair notices black color, which is black ink, and he touches it to check. The female pioneer is also investigating and looking at the surroundings and says, "There really are traces left by a creature. We have confirmed the locations of all recently reported large creatures, but for one to suddenly appear inside the city like this, even if it is an outer district, something's off inside the city. The only creatures we ever see are harmless small types, if a new variant has appeared." Red Hair says, "Let's not jump to conclusions just yet. More importantly, how are we supposed to track this thing? What a headache." On the other side, Kay is unconscious, and Nero is trying to wake him up. He climbs onto his face and wakes him, and Kay hears Nero's voice and suddenly wakes up. He says Nero's name, and seeing Nero safe, he becomes happy and asks him if he's okay. Then he sighed in relief and inquired, "What exactly happened?" "It was definitely because of those bastards when they dropped me into the ink." He begins remembering everything from a few moments ago, and his eyes widen. Then he looks at his hands to check if they are still completely covered in black ink, but he finds that his hands have become normal. Then he looks at his hair, which had now turned black, and he inquired, "How is something like this even possible? And why is it so dark here? I can't see anything." Just then, Nero starts running in a direction, and Kay tries to stop him. But Nero moves quickly, and then Nero starts changing into a different color, and his body begins glowing with white light. Because of his light, Kay can finally see that there are many black monsters around. Seeing them, Kay becomes extremely scared and says, "What is this place? This place is the Black Wasteland, a land surrounded by darkness, and this is the Black Forest area that only Brank pioneers and above can enter." And slowly, all those monsters start moving toward Kay. They're already gathering. He says, "Nero, let's get out of here now." He starts running with Nero. Then Nero notices something and warns Kay, because of which he dodges a monster's attack just in time. He barely escapes and says, "That was way too close." He thanks Nero and in the same way keeps dodging many monsters. Because of Nero's white light, he can see the monsters around him. Slowly, while avoiding them, he keeps moving forward, and Nero helps him. Then he feels something, and he inquires, "What is this feeling? My body feels amazing." Black energy starts gathering in his chest, and he realizes that even after running so long, he hasn't felt tired at all. He says, "I ran for so long, but I'm not tired at all, and I can move so much faster and more nimbly. My whole body is overflowing with power." Then Nero senses another monster attack and warns Kay quickly. The monster is extremely close, making it very difficult to dodge. When Kay turns back, the monster opens its jaw to eat him. Kay shuts his eyes, thinking he's going to die. The monster bites down on Kay's arm when he lifts it, but Kay feels almost nothing. Instead, the monster's teeth break. Seeing this, Kay is shocked. How can a monster's attack have no effect on his body? The monster runs away in fear, and Kay looks at his arm, which is completely fine. He says, "I was sure that would be a fatal wound." So, this is the power of a color. Then Nero appears in front of him, trying to tell him something. But suddenly, a huge monster appears before Kay, and when he sees it, he freezes. The monster is truly enormous. Its name is Cyclops. Seeing Cyclops in front of him, Kay's eyes widen, sweat falls from his forehead, and he becomes terrified. The monster attacks Kay. Kay thinks, "Why is a predator that only appears deep in the Black Forest here?" The Cyclops attack hits Kay directly, and he is dragged far away and falls. Nero gets scared something might have happened to Kay and rushes to him. Kay is still okay. He looks at the monster and thinks, even though the attack was extremely dangerous, he didn't feel anything. It felt like an ant bit him. He smiles and says, "It feels like I can win. I finally got a color I wanted so badly. Things will be different now. I don't have to run away anymore. I need to remember that sensation, that feeling back then." He activates his blacking power, and his whole body is filled with black energy. His eyes glow with white light. The monster roars and attacks Kay. Kay stands calmly, black and white energy rising from his body, glowing faintly in the darkness. He digs his feet into the ground and prepares a deadly punch to kill the monster. He jumps and with a single attack destroys the Cyclops, completely tearing its body apart. His attack is so powerful that it can even cut a mountain. Kay, in disbelief, looks at how he destroyed the Cyclops. His face shows no reaction. He remains suspended in the air, but then he sees something that makes him stop. He sees light. He sees many colors. His eyes widen. Before him is a beautiful, colorful world. Green everywhere. Clear blue sky, white clouds, mountains, and landscape. Seeing this scene, he is amazed. He thinks this place is so colorful, but then his black power begins disappearing. He is about to fall. Kay becomes confused and inquired, "Why is my power fading?" His hair turns white again. He looks down and screams loudly as he falls into the forest. Nero rushes to him to check if he's okay. Kay sees that his color is normal again. He has become colorless once more, and he says, "So the more I use my power, the more it gets used up." No. If this keeps up, Kay panics. If he loses his power, people will bully him again. They will look down on him. But then from inside him, a voice appears. Some entity says, "What are you doing? Your prey is right in front of you. Hurry up and devour it. The color right before your eyes. You don't want to die, do you? It's simple. Reach out your hand. Your hand." Kay's whole body becomes extremely weak. He keeps hearing the entity's voice. His eyes slowly start to close. His trembling hand reaches forward. He grabs the corpse, and suddenly black energy begins emerging from inside him. He starts absorbing all the colors around him. Nero watches in shock, his eyes wide. Black energy spreads throughout the whole forest. Kay absorbs every color around. A moment later, Kay becomes normal again and his hair turns black once more. He breathes heavily, sweat dripping from his forehead. He leans against a rock and lets out a deep breath. Mari workshop is peacefully calm until the chime of the doorbell breaks the silence. Mari turns her head to see a mysterious hooded figure stands in the doorway. Mari, the owner, greets the customer with her usual warm expression, saying, welcome. What brings you here today? Do you have a special request? But this time, something feels different. The visitor doesn't speak, doesn't move, just stands in silence, completely covered in a dark cloak. But then, the cloaked figure suddenly moves toward her. Mari in fear says, sir, don't you realize you look extremely suspicious right now? Mari steps back in panic, grabbing the nearest tool she can use as a weapon, shouting, Stop! If you come any closer, I'll blow you away! But the cloaked figure doesn't stop. He advances, slowly, silently, and said, Wah! And Mari in fear shouts, Stay back, you! The stranger pulls back his hood, revealing his face, and with a calm voice answers her panic. Calm down, Mari. Seriously, it's me. And suddenly the fear disappears, replaced by total confusion. Her eyes widen as reality hits her, inquiring, Kay, what happened to your appearance? When she knows what happened, Mari shaking with anger, gripping tools. She clenches her teeth, her entire body trembling. But this time, it isn't fear, it's rage. And she shouts, I'm so pissed! I won't forgive those bastards! Furious, she raises her wrench like a war hammer, saying, They deserve to have their heads smashed with this hammer! She charges wildly, but Kay steps in just in time and says, It's fine, Mari, you've already gotten your revenge. Slowly, she lowers the wrench and exhales, saying, Yeah, you got a bit carried away. I was worried since we lost contact. Something like this never happens. Her anger softens into relief. Mari, smiling, saying, Still, I'm really glad you're safe. Kay says, Yeah, sorry for making you worry. But even with the danger past, something still bothers her. And she says, surviving after falling into the red magic, and even changing looks, it's just unbelievable. But Black, that group of creeps still won't forgive you, right? Not after what happened in Red Light? Kay shrugs casually, as if the topic is nothing more than a minor inconvenience. And he says, That's already in the past. What matters is that I got the chance to become a colorist. His confidence is firm, almost stubborn. But Mari isn't done worrying. He adds, I'll put off looking into other things for now. Let's stay on track to the plans of becoming an enrager, okay? Thanks for making sure I returned on time. And, well, alive, Mari. So could I borrow some clothes or spare gears? I promise I will return it later. She sighs, frustrated, saying, Again? How many times has this been? But she catches herself and forces a smile, saying, Still, consider it an investment in a future colorist. Her mood shifts in an instant, and she grabs his wrist and pulls him toward the workshop's back room, eyes sparkling with excitement, saying, Follow me! I happen to have the right items for you. They'll fit you perfectly. The next day, sunlight pours over a massive structure, a towering coliseum bustling with excitement, crowds climbing the stairs toward the arena. Kay arrives with the flow of people, heading inside for one of the biggest events of the year. Inside, the arena is packed, thousands of spectators filling every seat. One in nervous says, Wow, this is insane. I've never seen so many people. Another says, Don't panic, just act like you're used to it. The chatter rises as participants gather in groups. One participant says, Hey, don't blame them. It's natural to be nervous with such fierce competition. The guy smiles, saying, I never imagined the day would come when we'd take the test for the Dawn Pioneering Corps. We actually made it this far? Another participant replies, Yeah, that makes sense. Joining the colorist tournament is basically a dream for every aspiring colorist, isn't it? Then the tone shifts, as the conversation turns to the true stars of the city, and those silhouettes of powerful elites glowing with bright colors, who the ones making this tournament so important. As an early colors, they have multiple high-class colorists. They're literally called the Hope of Shining City. Then every eye turns toward the glowing figures, the elite colorists who represent the city's strength. And the green guy says the only problem is that many strong candidates have gathered here. One of them is this blue-haired girl and a tall man beside her, both radiating confidence. She is the second daughter of a traditional colorist family and a famous bounty bounty hunter. And they aren't the only elites here. Even recent ranks, well-known rookies are here. But then, everyone's attention shifts to one figure. And one guy says, but still, the one attracting the most attention is that guy, right? At that moment, a green-haired swordsman walks through the crowd, his presence alone turning heads. He is Gale's sword Gale. He's basically guaranteed to pass. He's strong enough to handle S-ranked creatures alone. But overwhelming strength isn't the only thing he's known for. His cruel and violent nature often causes trouble. And the worst part? That his mood swings keep everyone on edge. You never know what he's planning. And he was reportedly kicked out from his previous corps. Right on cue, Gale snaps back at the people gossiping behind him. Gale said, "Hey, why are you guys blabbering behind my back? Tell it to my face if you've got something to say." Another guy smirks, saying, "Try saying that in front of him." He laughs and says, "That's a bit much." The examination hall buzzed faintly with whispers, a restless tide of hopeful voices. Yet the man who entered, broad-shouldered, green-haired, and cloaked in authority, paid them no mind. His footsteps echoed with boredom rather than urgency, his expression twisted into a familiar mask of disdain. He swept his gaze across the gathered examinees, lips curling into a scoff, saying, "Ridiculous little brats." He had come expecting brilliance, raw, unpolished talent he could mold, perhaps even a prodigy or two. But what greeted him was mediocrity, a sea of faces blending into one dull shade. He muttered, rubbing the back of his neck as disappointment washed over him. Pathetic. Is this really all there is? How utterly disheartening. One by one, the candidates failed to catch his attention. He whispered to himself, exhaling a long, tired breath. There isn't a single standout, but then his eyes froze. Across the hall, a figure stood out like moonlight breaking through murky clouds. A girl. No, a presence. Her long blue hair flowed gently as she walked, each step radiating quiet confidence. She didn't try to stand out. She simply couldn't be ignored. He narrowed his eyes, saying, "Well, at least, maybe that girl." Her name surfaced in his memory, not a common one, and certainly not easy to forget. She carried a rumor, a whisper of potential that had once reached his ears. And now here she was, standing before him, like fate itself had brought her to this exam. His boredom melted away, replaced by intrigue, sharp and hungry. He murmured, leaning forward slightly as a grin spread across his face. "So, you really did show up? Good. Let's see if the rumors about you are worth my time." Then his hand moved forward to her, saying to himself, "I wonder how they will react." But suddenly, a sharp click echoed overhead. A mechanical voice boomed, "Ah, candidates, the entrance exam for the Dawn Pioneering Corps will begin now." Then the spotlight snapped onto a single figure walking in from the opposite side. A man with golden hair stepped forward. The crowd reacted instantly. Gasps, murmurs, even squeals of admiration. His very presence seemed to ignite the air, confidence radiating from him like sunlight. Someone whispered, "Wow, a cadet from the Dawn Pioneering Corps. He made a huge contribution during the recent large-scale creature hunt." Truly, the Corps had sent one of its finest. And if this was the level of the examiners, then this exam would be nothing short of brutal. Then, with a controlled breath, he lowered his tone, saying, "Welcome." The single word struck the hall like a bell. Conversations died instantly. Every candidate stood straighter, as though pulled upright by an invisible force. He stepped forward, saying, "First, I want you to think about the reason you applied to join the Dawn Pioneering Corps." He adds, "Everyone here came with the same goal and mission, whether it's for money, power, honor, or duty." He paused, his eyes sharpened, cutting through the silence like a blade, saying, "Honestly, it doesn't matter." He continued, "In the end, you need skill to achieve anything, and we only test the skilled. We've been facing creatures stronger and more dangerous than ever before. Some have pushed into human territory." A chill crept down the candidates' spines. He said quietly, "When good people aren't skilled enough, they die without drama." Nothing more needed to be said. The weight of the Corps' reality settled over the crowd like a suffocating blanket. He gestured outward, saying, "Look around. You'll have a good idea." Before them stretched a vast arena, hundreds of hopefuls standing in tightly packed groups, surrounded by towering walls and divided training platforms. It looked more like the opening of a battlefield than an exam. He announced, "Will be conducted in a tournament format. The first test will be conducted in a tournament format. Outside the city walls, walls, survival depended on combat ability. Monsters lurked everywhere, and only the strong could return alive. At the Academy's evaluation grounds, the examiner called out to the gathered trainees, announcing that selections would be based solely on battle performance. He said, "Step forward when your number is called." Number 126 was summoned first. A green-haired student stepped onto the stage with calm confidence, drawing attention from the crowd. Whispers followed. His ranking was already mid-tier, even at the start of the test. Someone murmured, "Poor whoever has to face him." The student smirked, saying, "Lucky me. Finally some fun from the start. I was dying of boredom earlier." Number 126 licked his lips, eyes gleaming with amusement as he studied his opponent, inquiring, "How should I play with him?" But when the cloaked figure stepped forward, 126 frowned. The opponent's stance was basic, almost sloppy. Nothing about him looked threatening. He said to himself, "What's with this creepy guy? He looks weak." The green guy raised his blade and he muttered, mana flaring around his sword, "I've been holding back for too long. Now that the stage is set, there's no reason to hold back." A burst of green energy erupted from his blade as he charged, confident the fight would end quickly. Murmurs rose from the crowd as number 126's mana surged, twin blades of wind forming around his sword. They said, "That technique, Gale's sword? At his age? Unbelievable, he's a prodigy." The wind roared, swirling violently around him. Confidence lit his eyes as he pointed his blade toward the cloaked opponent. He said with smirk, "Ready? Try to block this." He charged, wind screaming around him. He moved forward, saying, "If you can't, you'll be shredded." The cloaked figure didn't move, merely watched the incoming strike as green winds tore across the stage. He is only surprised, and wind howled through the air as a green glowing slash tore across the battlefield. But K gave him one hit. The green guy was hurled backward, smashing violently into the ground. Debris burst outward in a spray of dust and shattered earth. In the distance, several onlookers stared, frozen, shock twisted across their faces. Inquiring, "What?" Their eyes widened as the dust thinned, revealing a spider-webbed crater. At its center lay the battered green-haired figure, motionless. Gale! The name escaped in disbelief, trembling in the air as the scene held still. The green-haired fighter staggered, dropping to one knee. Dust and smoke curled around them as they struggled to stay upright. Their voice trembled with disbelief, saying, "And that too, in one hit. How is this even possible?" A short distance away, the black-haired man, K, lowered his raised hand, exhaling softly, saying, "Ah, that startled me." His tone was calm, almost casual, despite the devastation behind him. Then one shouted, his eyes widened slightly, "Wait, I'm not missing the mark at all?" Inquiring, Black is the same color as creatures." A blonde observer stared at him, stunned. Another person beside them murmured, "Can a human even have that color?" Snow swirled lightly as the black-haired man stood alone, the wind brushing past his cloak. He stared at his own hand as if assessing something unseen. While they inquiring, "So Gale dropped? He was taken out in one hit. Is this all the power of the beast?" Our boy looked around, asking himself, "Did I make a mistake? I think no. LOL.